Hi, I'm Steve Rappaport, Knowledge Solutions Director for the Advertising Research Foundation and author of Listen First, Turning Social Media Conversations into Business Advantage. And today I'm having a conversation with Tonia Reese, who's the founder of Real Time Report. So, hi Tonia.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the Real Time Report.
Sure. My background is in publishing and the media industry. And I'm always looking for what's going to change my industry and what's going to turn it around. And about 3 years ago, I started really paying attention to social media, and it just became so clear that this was going to be the next passionate driving force that was going to completely transform the media business. Not only the media business, but also the way companies go to market. So I got on Twitter, started tweeting, had several aha moments, made some great connections, and in May of 2009, we launched what was then called TwitterCon, which was the first Twitter for Business conference. And our whole focus with TwitterCon was to focus on case studies, best practices, tools from brands and other kinds of organizations. So we have government, nonprofit organizations as well, and how they're using the real-time web, Twitter, and other types of platforms to listen and engage with customers in a way that delivers immediate response and immediate satisfaction, and that has essentially turned customer service into the new form of marketing. So
hold it there, because I want to come back to this, because I'd like you to tell us some stories about listening, because listening is really the first step.
Yes.
Right? And the way that you're talking about it from a social media marketing standpoint, first listen, then engage. So I want to hear some stories about that. But before we do, you've done something that's really interesting, and that is you've rebranded TwitterCon.
That's right.
And you changed it from TwitterCon to Real Time Report.
Right.
So I'm sure that you use social media to help you do that. What did you do?
Absolutely.
What did you find out?
Well, the first thing we use social media for is to understand that as hard as we were trying to help people understand that TwitterCon, while it started as a Twitter for Business conference, had expanded beyond just Twitter, the platform, to cover location-based services and other types of platforms as well. And we had expanded to be more than a conference. But our name says we're a Twitter conference.
Right.
So part of what I use social media for is to really understand how people were perceiving the brand and what they were saying about us. And it helped drive the decision to do the rebranding to begin with. Rebranding, as anyone who's been around and had to do that knows, is a very challenging thing to begin with. It's actually even more challenging in the social media era, because your brand now lives in so many different places. But we had our plan. We said, okay, here's what it's going to take to change the Twitter handle. Here's how we're going to have to change the Facebook page and everything else. The part we didn't pay attention to is what our hashtag was going to be. Because and one of the things I was very proud about is that people had been starting to use the hashtag TwitterCon as a way of being part of a community and a conversation that they wanted to engage in. We wanted to carry that over, and we just assumed we could use hashtag realtime as our new hashtag. What we didn't do is spend some time listening to what people were saying on that hashtag before we went there. So we are now on the same hashtag or channel, if you will, as Bill Mayer and his real-time show, which I'm learning a lot about. Several very unrelated people are using it on an ongoing basis to announce GPS tracking types of things. So there are conversations already happening on that hashtag, which make it hard for it to do what it really should do, which is to be a filter and a community builder for our community. So had we spent some time listening first before assuming that we could just get into that conversation, we wouldn't have to be coming up with a new hashtag, which we're now going to be doing.
Yeah. So do you have an idea of what that new hashtag will be?
We're actually going to do a survey, which I'm going to get up today. So we have some ideas. We've asked our people on Twitter what they think it should be. We've collected some options, and we're going to post a survey up on our website and ask people to vote.
Okay.
So
name your hashtag.
That's right. Pick our hashtag.
That sounds good. But let's go back now, because the kinds of companies that go to TwitterCon are ones that really want to listen and engage. So what are some of the types of companies and what are the different types of engagements that they're doing? Because that'll show a range of applications for using Twitter and some of these other social networking services.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we've had some examples of both companies that are doing it well and maybe some that are not doing it so well.
Well, let's hear those. I want to hear both.
You want to hear both? Okay.
Yeah, because honestly, sometimes when it comes to case studies that companies publicize, they're somewhat sanitized, and but hearing like where it didn't go quite right,
Yeah.
where the adjustments needed to be made,
Yeah.
that there's valuable learning there.
Absolutely.
So let's hear.
Absolutely. So our next event will be the Real Time New York 11 conference, June 6th here in New York City. We have some incredible speakers from brands like McDonald's, Donors Choose, which is a nonprofit organization that's doing wonderful work with teachers in classrooms. And there are all types of applications that they're using Twitter and real-time tools for that include marketing, straight up awareness building, rolling out new products, but they also include customer service. There are famous examples of airlines delivering customer service to passengers in real time. Wireless carriers are another example of that, where at the minute someone says, at phone company, my service sucks, you can either let that comment go and go viral potentially and have it influence that person's friends, or you can say that's an opportunity for you to immediately step in and engage in a conversation with that person. What's the problem? How can we solve it? Because if you can jump in, I think the old adage says that an unhappy customer is an opportunity to create an even more happy customer by solving that problem quickly.
Right.
And you can turn that person into an ambassador for life, and they're already vocal because they're on Twitter. So by listening to the conversation and listening for mentions of your brands and having a plan in place to address them can be incredibly powerful. Twitter, though, and all of these tools are messy. They are chaotic, and they're not, unlike traditional broadcasts, they're not something that you control, right? You can only participate in them. So I'll give you a great example of a serendipitous live case study that happened at our conference in New York a year ago. We had a panel on the topic of customer service with some great representatives from AT&T. One of the speakers was a PR person for NASA, the government agency that's one of the top 3 users of social media. What I didn't know, and what no one in the room knew, is that NASA at the time was being targeted by PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, because apparently they had announced that they'd be doing some experiments involving monkeys. So all of a sudden, in the middle of this panel, the back channel, which we were projecting up on the wall, was being flooded by PETA supporters saying, NASA, stop torturing monkeys, NASA, stop torturing monkeys. So it's a great example of what can happen, right? People can hijack a hashtag and interject themselves into a conversation when you're trying to have, a high value added conversation. So things can go awry out there. And the key to managing that is, to be prepared, right? Talk through different scenarios. How can you handle a situation like that? Do you have a place where you're telling your side of the story that you can quickly redirect people to and point them to without coming across as defensive? Having those types of things in place, which unfortunately our speaker did not. So it kind of
Lessons
escalated
learned.
the situation. But there are many lessons of brands who if you don't have a presence to begin with on these platforms, you're leaving a void. Right, and the classic example of that is BP and what happened with the oil spill last year. For those of you who are not as familiar with Twitter, there was no BP corporate presence or PR presence on Twitter whatsoever, and suddenly a spoof account at BP Global PR was created that was just absolutely mocking the company and its really haphazard PR efforts, and took what was already a PR disaster and made it into even more of a disaster. And there are many examples of these types of accounts now being created for companies who aren't already actively, proactively maintaining a presence, building a fan base, getting supporters.
So really being able to support just a simple activity like a tweet requires organizations to really build out essentially internal capabilities to not only just tweet but also to respond to detect, to defend, to take the initiative.
Absolutely.
And all of that. So it really requires an organizational structure
And
the
a
ability
commitment.
to respond. Yeah.
And a willingness to go into an environment that is kind of a Wild West atmosphere.
Right.
Which that's probably the most uncomfortable step for most brands. But there are brands who are now, getting back to the listening piece, who are now investing in literally listening command centers.
Right.
I don't know if I think Gatorade is one example that comes to mind, where they've actually created, and it looks like a command center.
Yeah.
Right? They've got computers set up and a staff of people dedicated to monitoring what people are saying about their brands and about topics that are relevant to their brand, and who are trained in turn to know how to very quickly, do I respond? Do I just acknowledge? Do I escalate? Do I redirect this person? So there's a whole process that you need to think through to help you be prepared, because these things are happening in real time.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Last question is, you mentioned using the Twitter hashtag to create a community.
Yes.
Could you just talk a little bit about the importance of creating a community and why it's important and what value that it has?
Your brand is only consists of what people say about you. And that has always been true. That's not a new thing, right? The difference now is that your customers who are saying things about your brand have as much of a tool and the ability to get the word out quickly as you did with your big TV budget or your radio advertising budget.
Right.
So the balance of power has shifted, and what I've seen brands do successfully, the ones that are successful in this new era of social media, are the ones who are a little bit humble about that and who recognize that it's the community that ultimately has the power, right? So managing your brand today is really the most important part of managing the brand, is to become a shepherd of that community that forms around your brand.
Excellent point. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
I know,
really
I could
enjoyed
keep
it.
talking for a while.
Yeah, we could. So, let's talk again.
Okay. I enjoyed it very much too. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.